All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachak. Welcome to another live lesson. This is a continuation to the video yesterday. This will be a part 2 to the wild olive tree, because I got cut off last night. That never happened with the StreamYard. Now, like I said, I'm pretty much using my phone as a hotspot to get onto my computer until they connect, the service here. So, my phone is a little overloaded because I have unlimited data, but it's limited. If you can figure that one out. So they're saying that I'm up over 5G now, or 5 gigs. So, what I did was, that could be a possibility, or they probably just turned off the stream. Anything is possible with these devils. So, in this one, I just pretty much, this will more than likely be a short video, because I want to pretty much recap where we left off at in Romans 11 chapter, because we pretty much went through it, and what I want to do is I want to go over the main point of the lesson, the main reason why I want to do the lesson, which is a land back off of Elder Pastor's video, because in Romans 11 chapter, it speaks about a wild olive tree. Now, what I usually like to, through the Spirit, what I usually like to start off with when I deal with Romans 11 is pretty much what scripture shows any other nation, being called an olive tree anywhere, and it doesn't. And that's why I like to start off with that, because it says, "For if the first fruit be holy," which is dealing with Yahushua, is dealing with, mainly dealing with Yahushua. Is he's the word, but it's dealing with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That stock, that lump. It says the lump is also holy, and if the root be holy, so are the branches, because the stock was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Gentiles, or the Israelite foreigners, were also Israelites of that same stock that had fell away, so they became degenerated, as we read in Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter. So it says, "And if some of the branches be broken off," because the natural branches were broken off, right, so that the Lord can make way for the Israelite foreigners to be brought back in and to be cleaned back up, and brought back to their fold where they belong naturally, and that's what the whole thing was about, and these so-called Christians, plantation Christians, they tried to use that scripture in Romans 11 to try to incorporate all nations into our blessing, which, like as Elder Pastor pointed out, when you go to Romans the 9th chapter, it pretty much breaks down, what the message was to the Romans, which were Israelites, that this only pertains to the nation of Israel. So salvation is only for the nation of Israel. It's not for anybody else. So why would he in one chapter speak about it's only for Israel, but then come back and say, it's for everybody? And it's not. And these individuals don't understand scriptures like here in Romans 11 and let's see, where 11 and 12 says, "Now if the fall of them be the riches of the world." So they looking at this word world, and they thinking it's talking about everybody. But that word world goes back to the word cosmos. It's not dealing with the whole entire world. It goes back to the word cosmos, and the word cosmos means an organization, an arrangement, which goes back to cosmeo, or komitzo, which also goes back to cosmeo, which is an arrangement, which is where you get cosmetics. The word cosmetics, which is, I'd done a lesson on that a couple of years back, or a year back or so, or yeah, probably a couple of years back. I don't really remember when, but went into that word cosmeo, which is an organization, and that's what the Lord is dealing with. It says an apt and harmonious arrangement or constitution, order, government. Yeah, because you had the law, statutes, and commandments that govern the nation of Israel. So when the Jews in Jerusalem fell, that opened up the door for the Israelite foreigners to be brought back into the fold, because the Israelite foreigners had fallen from grace, so to speak. Like it says in Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, that at that time you were without Yahushua, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, because you were a part of this, but you fell away. And you became uncircumcised, you became unclean. So now, through Yahushua, you're being cleansed through the blood of the Lamb. You're being cleansed and brought back into the fold. And that's what these wacky, tacky Christians are trying to distort. So, going back, it says, and if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, which we dealt with that word wild olive tree, right? We went to wild olive tree is agri elios, right? It doesn't say too much here, other belonging to the oleaster or wild olive, the oleaster wild olive tree. But when you go to the root word agrios, it's living or growing in the field or woods, of animals, wild, savage, of countries, wild, uncultivated, unreclaimed. So if you don't take care of a particular land, it's going to grow over with thorns, thistles, going to be unkempt. It says here, of men and animals in a moral sense, wild, savage, fierce. So pretty much the Israelites, as we've gone through in the book of Maccabees, became uncircumcised. They became wild. They became savages. They became fierce. Their morals were lost. That's why the Apostle Paul came back in the book of Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, and said this, Ephesians 2, and I want to just go straight to the point. Just bear with me, it's, let's see. Right here, Ephesians 2:11. Wherefore remember that you being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, because you became like these nations, who are called uncircumcision. You were being called uncircumcised or heathen or Gentile by that which is called the circumcision, which are the Jews in Jerusalem. The ones that never left were calling the ones that left uncircumcised, in the flesh, made by hands. That at that time you were without Yahushua, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenants of promise. So the covenants of promise was not given to everybody. It was given to the nation of Israel. And when you examine the promise that the Most High made to Abraham, that promise encompassed the land of Canaan, which was later renamed Israel. The land of Canaan was not given to all people. The land of Canaan was only given to the nation of Israel. So these so-called Christians, these plantation Christians, are in error when it comes to them teaching that all nations can be saved. They are guilty of adding to the scriptures. It says, and strangers from the commonwealth, covenants of promise, having no hope and without the Most High in the world. So when we look up this word commonwealth, it goes back to the word politeia, which goes back to the word city or citizen. The administration of civil affairs, a state of commonwealth, citizenship, the rights of citizen. Now the other nations were never given rights to citizenship in Israel or even to our laws. When you go to Psalms 147 chapter, it tells you that. And they don't like dealing with scriptures like this. Psalms 147:19. That's why they came up with that replacement theology crap. Because they're trying to, there's no way around the nation of Israel. So what they did was they X'd Israel out and they put the other nations in under the guise of so-called Christians. Psalms 147:19. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. What is that? That is the Bible, the document of the Bible, which is an actual contract that the Most High made between himself and the nation of Israel by the hand of the mediator, Moses. So it says, he had not dealt so with any nation. So this contract, this agreement, was not made with any other nation. It was not extended to any other nation. It was not given to any other nation. It was not lent to any other nation. Only the nation of Israel. This is why the scriptures speak about the gospel of what? Reconciliation. What is reconciliation? Reconciliation is to bring back into the good graces of someone. That someone being the Most High Yahweh, who was angry with us, Yasha Allah, the Israelites, and he cast us out of his sight, because we broke the contract. We breached the contract. We were in error. So this is, before we go back there, let's go to the book of 2 Corinthians 5:16. It says, wherefore henceforth know we no man after the flesh, yea, though we have known Yahushua after the flesh, yet now henceforth know we him no more. Therefore, if any man be in Yahushua, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things have become new. In other words, you become a new man when you come into this. And all things are of the Most High, who hath reconciled us to himself by Yahushua, and hath given to us the ministry of reconciliation. And reconciliation means to be brought back into the good graces of someone. And who is that someone? Yahweh, the Most High. You have the word katalasso, right? Which is to change, exchange as coins for others of equivalent value, to reconcile those who are at variance. So we were at variance and we were reconciled back to the Most High. Return to favor with, be reconciled to one. So the blood of Yahushua adopted us back to the Most High, Yahweh, and brought us back into the good graces of the Most High. Because at one time we were on his bad side. And now through the blood of Yahushua, we have been reconciled back. This is what the gospel is all about. The good news, the evangelion, the good news. What's the good news? The good glad tidings that the Lord, that we find in favor in the sight of Yahweh, once again, us Israelites, by the blood of Yahushua, who adopted us back to the Father. Bottom line. It has nothing to do with anything that these so-called Christians are talking about. So, going back to Psalms 147:19-20, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. So going back here to this is the administration of civil affairs, a state or commonwealth, citizenship, the rights of a citizen. And this right of the citizen was only extended to the Israelites. So it says at that time you were without Yahushua. Why? Because you fell away. But now through the gospel of reconciliation, or the ministry of reconciliation, you are brought back into the good graces of the Father by the blood of Yahushua. Being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. Yeah, we were alien from our citizenship. We were alien from our laws, statutes, and commandments. That is what made us unclean. That is what made us strangers. That is what made us uncircumcised. That is what made us heathens, Gentiles, Greeks, during the time of the Greek Empire, the Hellenization period. So a lot of Israelites became Hellenized and forgot their customs, their laws, their language. So it says strangers from the covenant of promise. And the covenants of promise were not given to anybody else but to the nation of Israel, and without the Most High in the world. So going back to here, agrios, which is one of the root words to wild olive tree, of men, in a moral sense, wild, fierce, because at that time we were without Yahushua, we were strangers to the commonwealth of Israel. So it says, and if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, which became wild olive tree because we degenerated, as it says in Jeremiah the 2nd chapter, the Lord planted us wholly a right seed. That right seed goes back to the choice vine, that royal stock, you know, the royal seed that came through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Were grafted in among them, and we were grafted back in. You know, the ones of us that were in that Gentile state of mind were grafted back in, and with them partakers of the root and fatness of the olive tree. It says, boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Why? Because you are Israelites, but remember, you guys fell away. So you're now getting back that good favor. So don't boast against the natural branches that were already there. So now let's deal with this word olive tree. Going to the book of Jeremiah 11:11. Therefore thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them. Why? Because Jake was always getting into that idol worship. You know? Salaki, brothers. It says, then shall the cities of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem go and cry unto the gods unto whom they offer incense, but they shall not save them at all in the time of their trouble. But in these different captivities, when Jake was worshiping these different idols, they still knew they were Israelites. They didn't let go of their nationality. But during the time of the Hellenization of the Greeks, the Israelites could not call themselves Israelites. They could not call themselves Jews, which we covered that in the first lesson of this. All right. It says, for according to the number of thy seed. So if they couldn't call themselves Jews, what were they calling themselves? Greeks. And that's why the Apostle Paul said there is no difference between a Jew or the Greek. Why? Because they're both Israelites. It's just that one went off and now is brought back into the good graces of the Most High. For according to the number of thy cities were thy gods, O Judah, and according to the number of the streets of Jerusalem have ye set up altars to the shameful thing, even altars to burn incense unto Baal. Therefore pray not thou for this people, neither lift up a cry or prayer for them, for I will not hear them in the time that they cry unto me for their trouble. What hath my beloved to do in mine house? Seeing she hath wrought lewdness with many. Yeah, because the nation of Israel wrought lewdness, you know, by worshiping these idols. And we were all in that condition. And the holy flesh is passed from thee. See? And that's what happened. We fell away. You know? And that holy flesh passed from us. So we became what? Uncircumcised. When thou doest evil, then thou rejoicest. The Lord called thy name a green olive tree, fair and goodly and of goodly fruit. With the noise of a great tumult hath he kindled fire upon it, and the branches of it are broken. For the Lord of hosts that planted thee hath pronounced evil against thee, for the evil of the house of Israel and of the house of Judah has nothing to do with the other nations. This wild olive tree in the book of Romans 11 chapter is talking about the Israelites that fell away. And in this case, during this time of when the Apostle Paul was writing this was, remember we spoke last night. You said that this history of the Hellenization of Israel was fresh in the minds of the Pharisees and Sadducees back in the minds of Israel, because it had just happened not too long ago. Here it is now, about 2,300 years later. You know, now we're getting it back. But back then, this was common knowledge. This wasn't something that you had to go and do some heavy research to find it. See, back then they knew it. And the Apostle Paul knew that history. So going back, it says, for the Lord of hosts that planted thee hath pronounced evil against thee from the evil of the house of Israel and the house of Judah, which they have done against themselves to provoke me to anger in offering incense unto Baal. And the scriptures never call these other nations, it never calls them an olive tree. The heathen were never called the olive tree. The only ones that were called an olive tree were the Israelites. And the reason why we read about the wild olive tree here that was grafted in against nature into the natural tree is because these were Israelites that degenerated, that fell away from being Israelites, and they couldn't call themselves Israelites at all. Let's just go. We dealt with it, but let's go there again. Let's go to Jeremiah 2, and I'll close it on this. Like I said, I just wanted to make the point of the nation of Israel, Israel and Judah, or Judah and Israel, being identified as olive trees. Jeremiah 2:20. For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou saidest, I will not transgress, when upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest playing the harlot, worshipping idols. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine. So we're nobility, a royal priesthood. It says, holy a right seed, meaning the whole seed was righteous. Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. Then in Jacob was where the promise rested. All of the children that came out of Jacob's loins that were later called Israelites, though that's where the promise of the Most High to Abraham landed. So the whole nation, that seed was righteous. It says, how then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? And when we go to the word degenerate, a degenerate plant is the word sawaria, or sawar, and it goes into degenerate, deteriorated, turned off. So we became turned off. So the Lord had to turn us back on by Yahushai. Degenerate. So let's look up this word degenerate. Let's look up this word degenerate, or degenerate. Degenerate, having lost the physical, mental, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable, showing evidence of decline. See, and we decline because we read in the book of Romans, the 11th chapter, when we looked up the word wild olive tree, and we went to the root word agrios, agrios. We read down here of men in a moral sense, wild, savage, fierce. Because we degenerated, having lost physical, mental, or moral qualities. So we lost our moral qualities, considered normal and desirable from the commonwealth of Israel. Being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, because we fell away. We degenerated away from the commonwealth of Israel. It says, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable, showing evidence of decline. And when we were introduced to that again, through the mercy and the blood of Yahushai, then we started gaining favor back again with the Most High. That's why you have the ministry of reconciliation, being brought back into the good graces of the Most High, Yahweh, by his Son, or by the blood of his Son, Yahushai. Lacking some property, order, or distinctness of structure previously or usually present. So if you degenerated, means that you were set up properly before, which we were. That's what the Lord said, that he planted us a noble vine. It says there, yet I have planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? You degenerated from the perfectness that I set you up to be. The perfection that I gave you, you degenerated from that. And that's what the Lord said. Make sure you keep these laws, statutes, and commandments, because this is what's separating you from the other nations. Because the Lord said he severed us from those other nations. And that's what Jake was missing back then. And that's why the Lord jumped on the Apostle Paul to minister to these Israelites. Because his office was to preach to the Israelite foreigners. Where is that? Right here, 13th verse. For I speak to you Gentiles or Israelite foreigners, and as much as I am the apostle of the Israelite foreigners, Gentiles, I magnify mine office, because that was what his job was. This is what was given to him. This is the dispensation of the gospel that was given unto him, imparted unto him, to go and wake these Israelites back up that were calling themselves uncircumcised, Greeks, heathens. So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. To the next time I say shalom. And that's what I wanted, just to get that, because I didn't get a chance to finish that in the lesson here, because as you know, around the 49th minute, that's when it started to go out. All right. So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. To the next time I say shalom.